there was so much love in the room for that band. And Elon and just all the guys. There was so much excitement. I mean, they felt it 150%.
Welcome back to Foo's Files, the podcast for fans of the Foo Fighters. It's Dan here. Hope you're all doing great. Another week and more live shows to talk about from the Foo Fighters, which is just great. So this week we're going to predominantly focus on the Amazon Music live show that took place last Thursday at East End Studios in Glendale, California, which I'm sure by now most of you have had chance to catch up on. It was really enjoyable and just great to see some pro shot live footage of the band looking and sounding so fresh. I know not a lot really changed in terms of the set list. They didn't play Asking for a Friend, which was quite notable. We're led to believe it was on the original list, but for whatever reason, they dropped it. And they didn't play it in Bakersfield either on Monday at the pop-up show there, so the plot thickens on that one as to whether we're going to get to hear it live. But do you know what? I put my feet up on Friday night after a really hectic week and kicked back and watched the Amazon performance. And even though I wasn't there, I was like, wow, I've really, really missed this and I've really missed them. I know, relatively speaking, the break that the band took was pretty small, but like a lot of people, I got so consumed with the tour last year and then also plugging away for months behind the scenes to get this podcast off the ground. I've just been so ready for them to come back. And obviously following the pop-up shows and the Asia tour from a distance here in the UK is one thing, but it's just so good to have a professionally shot performance to watch, particularly with the band with, you know, having a new drummer and everything like that. And it feels like a new era of Foo Fighters. And they look so happy, didn't they, playing in the round with the audience so close to them. Obviously, we got the close-ups of Elon too, so getting to see in more detail what he's all about was incredible. So yeah, just a really, really cool performance. We're going to hear this week from a regular listener to the show, Cheryl Fineman, who travelled across from Miami to be at the Amazon performance. If you don't know Cheryl, then I would highly recommend going back to episode 4 of this podcast, which seems quite a long time ago now, where she shared an uplifting story about her recovery from a broken foot, which was very similar to the injury that Dave famously suffered back in 2016. But anyway, Cheryl's back on the podcast this week to talk to us about the Foo Fighters live performance at East End Studios for Amazon Music Live.
Wow, man. Oh, we never done it like this before. This is the first time. We've never done it just like this. Does it feel good? I don't know. Does it feel weird? Okay. I know. You like it? Okay. So you're saying we should do it like this from now on? That's a tall order. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So I am incredibly technologically challenged. That's an understatement for the most part. And so what I was on Zoom calls and I got a pop-up on my phone. I get like Reddit pop-ups every so often. So I got a pop-up and I had been looking, I put in the reminder on that Dice app, and I got a pop-up on Reddit and I saw that the post had said that like tickets were live. And I was like, okay, whatever. I didn't really take much to it. I got off my call. It was about 20 minutes later. And I was like, I'll just take a look. So I popped in and it literally had the most detailed instructions, which I tried to go on Dice by myself and I couldn't follow the instructions. I couldn't find a code, whatever. Anyway, so I went on to, like I said, so I went and read it. I followed the instruction and it had a code. And I was like, oh, this is so easy. So I put in the code and I had two tickets in my cart. And I'm like, oh, I'm like scrambling to get my credit card now. I didn't really process that that was going to happen. Anyway, so I scrambled, put my credit card in, and boom, I checked my email 20 seconds later and I had a confirmation that I had two tickets. And that was on Friday. Was that Friday? I think it was the Friday before. I think it was Friday. We were going off to like a meet for my son for track. And then I had to like tell my husband that I just bought tickets to go to a show in California, which is so insane to some extent. Anyway, that's how it happened.
Yeah, because it was all a bit cloak and dagger. Because I was talking to someone on the Monday, and the show kind of crept out. There wasn't like a massive announcement,
No, it was weird. It was
and
weird.
then
And you know what? Now, like when I got there and I talked to some people, I've now learned, and obviously I don't know, don't hold me to this, but what I've heard is that it was Foo Fighters headquarters or a woman that is connected to their social media team that dumped this post into Reddit with very succinct instructions with the goal of being to get it into the hands of um the like fans, true fans. That's what I have learned. Don't hold me to that, but that's my understanding.
okay, yeah, it kind of crept out on that Monday, and that's when
Yes,
global outage and all the systems went down. So
right,
Amazon got taken down along with a few other brands. So they kept
right,
getting the tickets back and back and back. But
right.
yeah, so you're going across to the other side of the country to see them then. So what sort of happens next?
I mean, well, I had to tell my husband. We've been down this path before. I mean, I bought tickets to the Taylor Hawkins tribute without just like on the spur of the moment. I flew out, like I told you, I think we had connected and I flew out and I went to Violet's show and I had luckily met Dave, which was so freaking cool. So I've done this a few times. It's been a minute, so I don't think he was expecting it. So I had to first tell my family and then figure out if my husband could get off from work. So that's kind of like the dance that we were doing over the course of the next few days to figure out if both of us could get out there.
Yeah. So when did they tell you about where the venue was? Because nobody even know where this.
So yeah, so I just went by myself, by the way. And my dear friend in California was desperately looking for a ticket. It worked out. We got there. I showed up in town on Wednesday night. Um, the show was the show Thursday? The show was Thursday. So Wednesday night, I got into LA Wednesday night. I saw an email. I can't recall exactly the time, but I got an email on Wednesday night that it was East End Studios. I got a text. I mean, that was the rumblings because that's where the show in the previous week, what the Shabuzi show was, and that's where I think a lot of the shows previously had been. So, I mean, it made sense that it would be there because for setting in purposes like that. So I got that on Wednesday night. And that's when the conference, yeah. So we knew at that point.
Okay. What was like the setup then? Because it's not your typical concert in terms of doors opening. You go in. Did they come out pretty quickly?
It was wild. So, my girlfriends, they're kind of good at this, I would say. They're definitely veterans because they live in LA and they get to go to a lot of these gigs and so they're quite familiar with kind of how to like show up and they get there early anyway. So we showed up early, bananas early. I think it was noon. And there was one other gentleman there, lovely guy, super fan. And we just waited. So we had chairs, and then a couple of other fans started rolling in, and they wrote numbers on their hands. I am not one to do this a lot, so it was cool. I've never done this before. Really, really cool. Great people. They all lined up. And I talked to security because I couldn't figure out where to go. And he explained to me that the set was going to be different, that it was secret and the Foos they kept it like close to the vest. So all they knew is that the previous week was about 1,000+ fans, and this was going to be extremely intimate. At that point, I realized why very few people got tickets. He said he thought like sub 500 which was very different than previous shows at this venue because it can hold a lot larger. So yes, the security said that they wanted a specific custom set and nobody had seen it. Um, and then we waited, and doors opened at 7.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because on the live stream, it was difficult to tell exactly how many people were there because of the configuration, because of like
Oh yeah.
it's in the
Yeah,
and the camera's constantly moving around. Normally, when you've got a
totally.
front on at the stage, you can kind of build up a rough sort of picture of how many people are there. But so you reckon less than 500?
So no, so then we came to learn once we got to the front and people from Dice and Amazon and the production started coming out and preparing us that the line was going to, they were going to start taking people in. We talked to this lovely woman who told us 300 GA tickets were sold. Maybe another 100 for VIP, friends and family, that kind of thing. Just 300. And that is exactly how the band wanted it, she said. Then we also learned at that point it was going to be not specifically in the round, but they had catered and created a very different style stage, specifically for it to be this kind of intimate setting around the band.
Wow.
Very different, very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got in then, and it was just case. It was all first come, get to the barrier, who will go wherever you want.
Well, no, because I won't say his name because I don't want to say names, but the man that was at the front, he was like the conductor. So we like lined up and then there was a cocktail room, if you will, where they had drinks and there was I'd have to show it to you, but they came up with names for drinks that like hearing voices. And it was cool. They had like a whole little getup. But if you wanted to be in the front of the rail, you kind of had to d go straight beeline for the near the door, right? And so you kind of had to remove yourself from that hour of kind of hot cocktail and hanging and stuff like that and go to the straight. And so they originally were going to keep those doors shut, but they kept them open and they realized that they were obviously fans who were there the whole day and wanted to have a place around the circle. So anyway, they let everybody come in who wanted to do that. And that was probably like, the people that had waited for the bulk of the day. And it was probably nothing you'll ever see before when you go to a rail because you literally had your pick of the litter as to where you wanted to stand around the band. So you saw DG and you saw you saw where Chris was going to stand, you saw where Pat was going to stand. And you could pick anywhere you want to be.
That's incredible. I didn't realize you got your own sort of green room as well if you wanted to. That's really cool.
Legit. It was legit. It was like you knew where they were going to stand. There was no like running to be in front of because it was a circle. So you could just, if you want to be behind the line, you go behind the line. Yeah, it was cool. It was something you'll never likely. I don't do a lot of rail experiences, but my understanding is, yeah, this would not be something that would ever happen again like that.
Yeah, you were behind Dave, weren't you?
We were kind of to the right of him, not necessarily directly behind him. So we kind of had like his side view, yes. And for better or worse, there's a lot of me on because directly across from us were like, these super cool ladies that travel a lot to see the band. And a lot of the footage is them taking, shots. So yeah, we were definitely in the line of recording.
Great. So how long was it between you kind of getting into the venue to them actually coming on to play?
They let us in at 7, and for those that kind of did not participate in the cocktail, it was like 2 hours. But we came in and out, we got drinks and stuff like that. So yeah, band came on at 9:05, 9:10, something like that. And yeah, roughly like 2 hours.
So tell us how you felt when they ran on then.
I mean, for somebody like me, I've been like I said, I've been going to shows since 20, 30 years, and the smallest venue I ever been in was like the North Carolina show, I think, which was like 7,000. Like I said, I can't typically manage a whole day to get to the front. But and obviously that tiny little Violet show, but that's not the band. So it was bananas. I mean, like they're literally there's no rail. There was just like a little kind of pen, like a cage. I mean, like a little just, there are no words to describe. I mean, it was like you said, it was like literally being in a green room and the guys are just kind of it was like the Studio 6, like the 606, like they did for Wasting Light. It was like just being there, or maybe being in like Roswell back when they did that Roswell, or like or being at like MTV where they did the 24 hours of food. Just like it was like that kind of, if you take it back, 15, 20 years. I don't think the band has done, or like being in like the garage with them when they did the garage tour. That's the only way I could compare it to, you know?
Yeah, sure. And the live stream probably didn't pick this up as well because, yeah, there were a few comments about it, but I know you said how electric the atmosphere was in there.
I think so. I hadn't had an opportunity when I was in LA to look at the live stream, but I recently have. And it was very edited, right? Very choppy. It obviously it looks like kind of like, bits go in and out. It is not indicative of, I mean, it's a great recording, don't get me wrong, but it is definitely not indicative of because it goes in and out. You get a blip. It's like seeing somebody on a red carpet and then they're not smiling and they're smiling 20 seconds later. So you get a blip of a couple of people maybe that were right behind Dave because the stage manager said to the crew right near us that you're going to be on a lot given your position behind Dave. So that's very that's nerve-wracking for people. They know they're going to be on a screen. For me, as somebody said that to me, I probably would have, I didn't process it and I look like a lunatic, but I don't really care. But I was, because it was just so bananas fun. But I could see how that's not intimidating, but potentially, right? And so what you see on the stream is in and out, you know? It was so loud. There were tons of fans. Um, Anybody that was around the rail was there kind of early, you know, like just there was so much love in the room for that band. And Elon and just all the guys. There was so much excitement. I mean, they felt it 150%.
Yeah, they've got such a renewed energy, haven't they, after a bit of a break, and it sounded so good on the stream.
Well, I think for a guy like not just Dave, for all of them, I think they really rarely get this opportunity to have this direct connection to fans. Also, given everything that's transpired over the course of the last 5 years and how they've had to stay close to the vest for personally and just to protect their own mental health. But and I imagine as a human that hurts because they've always been about fan connection, human touch, collective community, and doing this together. So you could tell on their faces this means a lot. They really like to see emotion of fans and touching a fan's hand or seeing a fan, smile, cry, yell, um, to be in the moment. I mean, Dave goes to shows and headbangs at Metallica. I mean, it in the pit, in the snake, right? So like he is that kind of fan. They all are those kind of fans. And so I think these kind of shows mean a lot to them.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you think of the set list? Because the talking point really was what they didn't play, because we all kind of wanted to hear the new song. And
I mean, I was like, I screamed. I mean, he asked for like a recommendation, and I was just like, I screamed. I wanted to hear that song so badly live because, like I said, I don't live in LA and I can't go to any of these gigs.
Any requests?
I would have loved to hear it live, but I could understand why they didn't. That might not have been the right place and time. Maybe they wanted it for like, a real, not a real, that's not the right word, but maybe something where it was a specific type of food show. I don't know, but it was on the set list. It came off, um, and they went with a more traditional, you know, radio friendly hit set list. Outside of Nothing at All, which I've heard live and it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I totally get it as well because the first time you play it and it's like a pro shot show,
Right.
and so if it's
A
not
hundred percent.
if it's not as tight as they want it to sound,
100%.
nobody
I
cares.
think you're right.
Yeah, if they play it live to millions of viewers on Amazon and it's not quite where they want it to be yet, then I guess it's
Yeah.
understandable, isn't it? So
Yeah. And I think they're kind of like vibe guys. They kind of just like it did if it didn't feel right or like it must have just not felt right at that moment and they pulled it. That's my thinking.
yeah, sure. Any other bits that stood out from the set?
Uh, I mean, personally for me, I haven't had any opportunity to see Elon play live. Um, and so I followed him for quite some time. I'm a huge fan. Um, so for me, and I've watched some footage of some of the, club shows and stuff like that, but for me, the standout was getting to watch him play and watch him in his like kind of little bits of solos and how in this is a call and then during Monkey Wrench and then All My Life they've tweaked things differently and especially the endings and there was like a little bit of a reggae bounce to it and watching Dave and him vibe specifically because I know that's Dave and Tail like it's just a very specific vibe for me that's a standout because he is I mean he hits on all cylinders he is I mean filthy in the best way groovy in the best way so for me that was like that's not a particular moment but a standout.
I agree from watching it on the stream because All My Life at the end, Josh was doing an extended version, but he's just taken that on a little bit further, hasn't he? And I also loved getting to see a pro shot version of the Ace of Spades thing that they did at the end of No Son of
Oh
Mine.
yeah, so cool. So cool. So fun. It's cool to see them coming to life in different ways and it's just yeah, it's cool.
Excellent. Anything else on that you observed from being there that we maybe wouldn't necessarily have noticed from the stream?
Yeah, I mean, I can only reiterate the same thing. I feel I went to a lot of shows on the last tour. I traveled a lot to see the band. And I think it was a complicated time and what do I know? I don't know them personally, but what stands out to me is time heals, time goes forward, and they love doing this. They love playing with each other, and it felt good. It looked good. They look happy. They look fresh. They look pumped to bring new music out, and um, you could just feel it. You could just feel like it feels like the weight. It'll always be there, but it just feels like it's kind of like Dave talked about Mount Fuji and the clouds separating. I think that's the perfect analogy. It really feels like that, like in my gut, in my like soul as I listen, it really feels like that. And I don't know if you could see that on the stream because you have to kind of see their faces and their interactions and kind of how they move about the stage and each other. And it felt right. It felt good.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you got tickets for the tour next year? Yeah.
I
So
do. I'm a little, cuckoo as you kind of learn. I just kind of pull the trigger on things and I figure it out after. My husband's family, we're Eagles, Phillies fans, go Eagles. And so I pulled the trigger on Lincoln. I pulled the trigger on DC and Nashville because I love Nashville. Who the hell doesn't want to go to Nashville for like a weekend? Anyway, so I pulled the trigger on all three of those. But one of them will be in the pit, and then the rest I have to go with my family, and they don't want to do that. So I have to kind of balance out this, like, and my son just picked up guitar this weekend, so I'm so pumped. So for the first time, so they'll go with us. So I just have to figure it out. If, and I know you're in the UK, if the UK happens, I am 150% going to pick those up, and it'll be a family trip to the UK. So we'll see kind of like how this all like shakes out over time.
Yeah, if you've never done it, you've got to come to a show over here because
Oh,
the
I mean,
atmosphere
my
is.
first choice is UK and Brazil. That's where I want to hit, but Brazil's not, that's not remotely feasible. So the plan is to hit you up next summer because you got to put the juju out there. So UK is going to happen, and then you're going to give me an itinerary of where to go, and we're going to make a family trip out there, and we'll see each other on we'll see each other on a hopefully at a show.
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
That's the plan.
So anybody that wants to see us rip some 3-hour-long show in a sweaty little nightclub, keep your eyes peeled and come out and see us sometime. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks, Cheryl. Always great to chat. Now, as Dave said in the clip just there, he did promise more of the pop-up shows were coming, and sure enough, they were back at it on Monday in Bakersfield, California, at the Nile Theatre. And the big news from that one, song-wise, was that they played I Don't Want to Hear It, the Minor Threat cover that they released during the 30th anniversary week a few months back. So it was interesting that they chose to give that one an outing. But yeah, we've all got our eyes peeled to see where they land next. And I don't think I'm going to be able to cover every single show on the podcast, but we'll perhaps try to do a roundup of Bakersfield and any others that come up on a forthcoming episode. So do drop us a line if you're lucky enough to get to one. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to Foos Files. Don't forget to leave us a rating and review if you're enjoying the show. And until next time, have a great week.